continuously disrupt yourselves, and in some way you're able to remain at the epicenter of the cultural zeitgeist of what is happening as cosmetics. And so how do you do that? How do you make sure you stay current? Because, to your point, I mean, you mentioned the Taylor Swift effect. I mean, people have referred to the Glossier model a little bit as the Taylor Swift of cosmetics because you go from 8 to 80 as well. Talk a bit how you remain so relevant every single year.
Well, it's hugely important when we think about that year 10 of a 100-year brand is how do we continue to evolve our strategy and go where the puck is going and evolve with our customer. I mean, at the heart of everything we do is our customer and our community. And brands endure, but channels evolve and strategies evolve. For a long time, Glossier was labeled as a D2C company. And we did a lot of, soul searching around, well, what is our superpower? What is our value proposition? And we're a community-driven beauty brand. And it is our brand that is our value proposition. D2C for us is a channel. It was a really important channel, remains an incredibly important channel. But we needed to evolve, and we have constantly evolved. And that is what I think has kept us not just leading, but ahead and continuing to disrupt. So for us, that was first and foremost taking a hard look at our technology strategy to say, if D2C is not our value proposition, how do we evolve so that we can go where the customer is and meet her where she wants Glossier to be and is looking for us to be in the future? So that led to a transformation of our technology strategy. We partnered, Harley, you and I have now had an amazing strategic partnership where we said, really, how do we get to the next level and how do we think on positioning Glossier for that next 90 years ahead? And for us, that was re-platforming to Shopify, redesigning our site. Then it was entering retail, and we now have 11 stores here in the US and in the UK, and our stores are experience centers for us. They're places the community comes to engage and experience our brand in a 360-degree way, and that's, again, why we think the lines are around the block and why consumers really want to connect with us in a real and human way. And so retail is an important growth driver for us. It's not just experience, it's also four-wall profitable, so it's a huge driver of our business. And then we entered Sephora, really because we wanted to bring more Glossier to more people. We have a brand that has 51% brand awareness, but less than 1% market share.
Wow.
Huge opportunity to connect the dots and allow more people to participate in our brand and bringing the brand to where our consumers were telling us they wanted us to be. You mentioned the #1 search brand on Sephora.com. So really having the customer drive our strategy in entering Sephora, and that's been a phenomenal success for us, and really seeing how our ecosystem of commerce could evolve to meet her where she is and make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve and keeping the brand and culturally relevant and where she wants to be and where she's going.
Yeah, I mean, it's just survived. You guys thrived. I mean, you had a collaboration with Barbie and pop-ups across the country. I mentioned sort of what you did in terms of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But I'm so curious about how you were able to not just survive this thing, but thrive during the pandemic where every one of your competitors changed. And one thing in particular that you said that I want to pick back up on is, you said that the way that you describe travel is not just getting on an airplane, it's literally humans moving from one point to another. So maybe start with this idea of the last 5 years and growing this incredible brand.
Span over 13 different categories. Everything from kids' backpacks to cosmetic bags to work coats to rollers, of course. And at the time when COVID hit, we were actually gearing up for a huge launch in all of our rollers. Whole plan, we were set, this is gonna be amazing. Okay, nobody's traveling. Awesome. We diverted them very quickly to other categories that we had already had credibility in. We started talking about our shoulder bags, our hands-free bags, smaller items that they could use on shorter trips, whether they were going on walks, grocery store, coffee shop, you name it. And because we had already had that assortment of other categories, it was great to be able to shift that focus. I also think, similar to you, Kyle, at Glossier, our community has been super important to us from the beginning. Along with growing the brand, we've built the community, and we've gathered information from, not only social media, but from digital marketing, from the reviews that we get in from every product. We take that and then we implement it into our products. And we haven't thus far invested in brick and mortar stores yet, because I think we're having a lot of fun with these pop-ups. We started our first one at the Grove, which was the Beis Motel. That was awesome. And then last year we expanded to the Beis Hotel, where we launched that in 3 different cities. And that for us is really fun, because being a D2C company, we're then able to meet the consumers IRL in real life. Sorry.
Time where it felt like every single brand retailer on the planet had a DJ. in their store. And every brand for a period of time had a cafe there. And some brands should have a DJ, and some brands should have a cafe. But when I'm going ahead and buying, I don't know, baby formula for my daughter, I don't really need a DJ in the store. It kind of reminds me of what I've lost.
Club in a long time.
That's right. But in truth, I mean, there's an authenticity about everything you do. I want to shift a little.
Very incredible information from our consumers from all those different platforms. From Shopify, thank you so much. Being on the platform for 5 years now, we've gathered a lot of insightful information. We know what our consumers want and what they don't want. At the end of the day, I myself am also a consumer. I know what I want. I know what I, gravitate towards when it comes to content and product. And so I think that we really ask ourselves internally as a team, what is it that would make our journey when we leave the house, getting from A to B, a lot easier? What features could we add that haven't been done before? And so I think there's a lot of that. I also think that's what kind of separated us from the beginning. From my personal experience of traveling, I was always having problems of maybe overpacking a little bit. So we wanted to incorporate this weight indicator into all of our rollers. So before you get to the check-in counter, if your bag is overweight. That was one of our features. The other thing is with our cosmetic kits, adding a mirror, because most times, the hotel light in the bathroom isn't the best. So I want to do my makeup in front of the mirror. Perfect, take it out, put it in front of the window, we're good. It's little things like that, like our key leashes that are now in every single product, because there's nothing worse than wanting to get your keys go inside quickly and you can't find them. Things like that could only have been done with this sort of mentality that we have at Beis, which is really this risk-free mentality. There's no bad idea. I don't care what department you're in. If you have an idea for something to add to our products that could make your journey outside in the world better, easier, we want to do it. And so adding that and continuing to be as innovative as possible in the future is what we're striving to do.
Back channel, maybe you still do, I'm not sure it still exists, but for a long time where you had your super fans, and they would go to the Slack channel, and I know both you and Emily were actually in the channel, and you kind of opened up the floodgates for anyone and everybody, lots of people, lots of opinions, to give you feedback and tell you what they wanted, what they didn't like. Most companies would have done that, I think, as a PR stunt. But I believe, and you've told me this directly one-on-one when 4,000 people weren't listening, that actually that is a big part of how you think about R&D and developing product. There seems to be a real, genuine empathy for the people you serve that you can't really import it. It's sort of baked in DNA. Can you talk a bit about that connection and how you think about developing your product?
Yeah, to an authentic brand. And consumers today are more savvy than ever. They'll call you on it in a minute. You can't have an authentic brand. You're certainly not going to have a brand that lasts decades if you're not both authentic and highly empathetic to your consumer. So for us, our community is at the core of everything that we do. And as we've scaled and grown, we continue to evolve how we engage and connect with that community. So from the Slack channel to the extensive social listening that we do, we are all over in that dialogue, in the conversation with our community, having and fostering and kind of truly having that like beauty BFF discussion with them, whether it's our Reddit. We've got incredible Reddit communities that we're in there. Our whole teams are just mining that data and information. So it's really just listening, and you get feedback, good, bad, and ugly, but we take that and we love it to drive us to continue to raise the bar on how we can develop product, how we can develop campaigns, how do we develop experiences. We have things like Glossier Labs where we bring customers in, they can test new products, help inform where a product roadmap is going. So that kind of constant dialogue that we're not only just listening to, we're fostering, we're part of the conversation, I think has kept us not just on the forefront, but leading and continuing to disrupt. And I think that emotional connection is what lets people feel like they're part of a community that's bigger than yourself. If you're trying to your customer in your community, and then you have to walk the walk and stand behind it and say, we're not just going to change an industry because we create a brand that people want to be a part of, and that it says you can come as you are and you look good no matter where you are on that journey. But the social impact work that we do, to the way that we're building a modern beauty company, and how we have an entirely female leadership team, all of those pieces to me are how do you change an industry, change the world, and hopefully have a bigger impact. And your community wants to be part of that. And I think that's that values basis that really makes you transcendent as a category and truly operate for decades.
Shopify, whether it's like Shopify Markets or Shopify Audiences or a new point of sale system, she calls me and says, I want to understand how we can actually use this to build our business. The attention to detail that both of you have at the very minute day-to-day operations of each of your businesses is absolutely mind-blowing. And I believe I don't know if this is a vintage thing or an era thing, but it feels to me like the people running some of those interesting brands and businesses or retailers today they're not selling widgets. They're deeply interested in understanding who they're selling to and how to evolve. I want to, as we come to a close here, I want to talk about sort of the future of retail. This conference, this stage is the most, I think, one of the most important, impactful places for retailers to understand where things are going. It's sold as long as it provides a really great experience. How do you think about balancing direct to consumer versus wholesale versus physical retail versus selling across, social media? Maybe Kyle, I'll start with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of our strategy in terms of how do we continue to evolve, because channels are going to evolve, they're always going to evolve. The marketplace is going to evolve, the consumer is going to evolve, your brand endures. And I think that lens allows you to stay nimble and dynamic. And it means first and foremost following the customer where they are, which is they want experiences, they want differentiated experiences. They wanted to see in our brand, they wanted to see us in places like Sephora. We heard loud and clear they want us to expand globally. That we heard 10,000 comments. That was our most asked thing. When are you going to ship globally? It was a big thing we talked about, Harley, which is this brand is only scratching the surface on our global expansion. And so listening to the consumer, that lets our strategy be a pull. It's always a pull, and it puts the customer at the center and allows us to serve her 360 degrees ways on whatever channel she wants to be. And then it allows us to continue to stay nimble and dynamic and evolve that strategy as she evolves, as the marketplace evolves, so that our brand is where she is in a really authentic and real way. And it's about how all the parts work together. It's the sum of the parts, and that's what we're seeing, in that the brand is more relevant than ever, bigger than ever. We're seeing a higher growth and largest size we've had in our history, and it translates because we're thinking about it more holistically. An ecosystem that she can participate in and our consumer can help drive, and never losing the sight of the fact that at the heart, it is about that community. It's about our brand. It's about the products that we make and how we continue to surprise and delight her, and do that in a way that keeps moving us forward, but in a way that's very modern for how she's engaging from a commerce landscape standpoint.
And I mean, even dancing.
Alice living her best life.
Amazing. So I want to ask this. I mean, a lot of brands would look at that and say, this is marketing. We have to spend money on it. Or how do we actually justify the profit and loss for this? It doesn't feel like you at Beis think about it in that way, that, well, how do we show a return on investment of this particular pop-up? Rather, it feels more like you are long-term committed to this thing. Can you talk about why those pop-ups are so important? Because I don't think anyone does it better than Beis is doing right now.
Thank you. Essential. It's like our give back to the community. Like you said, they are so important, and we don't get to meet them as often as we would like because we don't have those storefronts. So to be able to be like, hey, we've created this really fun experience, not only for you, but my team has a great time there too. Where we can all come, we can talk, and we can really hear from you, again, IRL, but I love that, and I think you can change it up. So when I speak about going international, there's different products we would maybe push a little bit more because we've heard from our global community what they want, and that might be different than the kind of pop-ups we're doing in LA. So I think it's really listening to them, hearing what they want, and changing it up, and I love having that no commitment to a brick and mortar right now, where we can play around and switch it up depending on where we are.
Yeah, it sounds like also you kind of reserve the right to wake up smarter every single day. So at some point, if there is a brick and mortar physical permanent location that makes sense for you, you would do it.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things that I often get, and there's going to be retail everywhere, every single surface area that exists around the world where consumers are spending time online or offline should be a place to transact. And part of the reason that we are so motivated and inspired to keep building is because we're watching these incredible disruptors like Beis and Glossier continue to kind of push. I believe that companies like this are changing retail. And just a little bit of retail history before I finish here. 1876, taking way back, this guy named John Wanamaker created Wanamaker's department stores in Philadelphia. And it was the first time, I'm a retail geek, as you probably can tell. It was the first time in the world, North America, that there was an actual department store, meaning a lot of brands under one roof. And my belief is that retail, for the last 100 years or so, has been pretty linear in terms of innovation and disruption, meaning the stores got bigger. Now there are stores with water slides and dance clubs and music and cool food and all this types of stuff. But generally, it's been kind of the same thing. And it strikes me that it's only been in the last decade or so where you began to see incredible entrepreneurs, incredible thought leaders like both of you, look at the traditional retail landscape and say, I think we can do it better. and have the courage and the technology, I mean, hopefully we're helping them with a lot of that, the courage and the technology to say, what if we did this in a completely different way? What if rather than looking at a consumer as a customer, we looked at them as a community member or as part of our R&D team? And what if we mix the whole thing up? And I think the end result of that is over the last 10 years or so for you and 5 years for Beis, which is still unbelievable, Shay, you have completely changed these industries. And so maybe just a quick closing word from each of you around where do you see things going for each of your companies?
Be so happy with it when our consumers feel like they've made this product. I'm like, you did. Thank you for doing our job. We can go home now. No, but I love that. I want them to see that their feedback has been taken seriously and that they're seeing it in the products in our collections that we're dropping because they are the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
And I want to continue that relationship with them.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Carly, to your point, it's 1 + 1 can equal 10 if you continue to think about the customer at the center and what that ecosystem to be. And I think that's what we've seen over the last decade so exponentially is how retail has evolved from the onset of e-commerce, but now that integration offline and online, and how do you really tap into the way that that's truly community and customer focused. And we're seeing the power of that, and it's showing up in terms of how we're acquiring customers through retail. How do we have higher lifetime value when they come in through retail? It's not just a 1-to-1, it's 1 + 1 + 1 adds up over the time and really allows you to have that longevity. For us, it's about how do you build a brand that will be here decades down the road, and you do that because you have shared values with your customer. You have a deep emotional connection that allows you to, I think, be transcendent of the category you're playing in and doing something bigger than just transacting. And I think we're now having the technology, the vision, and the strategy to bring that to life. So we're excited about where Glossier is headed now around the globe to really bring that to life exponentially in the years to come.
I love that.